Hi, this is Robert, one half of the 12 Pound Podcast. Welcome to the show. As a quick reminder, we discuss life's changes and how we hope to help you face them through shared stories and experiences. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce our audience to my wonderful co-host, Mom. Hey, Bobbie.
Hi, Robert.
How are we doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, honey?
I'm doing great. You got me some Wawa pinwheels.
I did.
Turkey and cheddar pinwheels, wrap bread with turkey breast and honey mustard dressing.
It's a little ad for Wawa.
It's Wawa. Wawa, I adore you. You're
Yeah, they're pretty
everything.
good.
You're everything I want in a grocery store. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
We're not sponsored by Wawa, but we care about them.
We care about you, Wawa. You could sponsor
They're a
us.
good friend to us.
Yeah.
Wawas have been good friends to the community for a long time.
Wawa's ridiculously amazing, isn't it? It's just really, phew.
I know, it's so good. I'm probably going to snack on this pinwheel during this recording, so I'll try to mute it when I'm
Try
eating.
Try not to, like, chomp into the mic.
Chomp into it. I'm just going to be staring at it longingly.
Not a good idea.
No, it's not. I'm just going to drink some water. But I'm happy to be back. This is our third episode. We're back. We've come back. We've reinvented ourselves. You are now a pickleball
Person. I'm an alliteration.
You're a PBP.
That's a big alliteration.
It is.
Is it alliteration if you have three?
I think
is
if
it
you're
still an alliteration? Like a pickleball person is an alliteration. Is a private pickleball person or whatever you want to use for another P, is that still an alliteration or is it called a super alliteration?
I don't know if it's
These are things I worry about, Robert.
Sweet birds sing. So that would be the same letter or sound.
No, you
at
got
the
a B in there,
beginning.
goofball.
Just sweet birds sing. S and S.
Yeah, but SBS.
SBS. This sounds like BS. You sound like
No,
BS.
I'm talking about.
No,
it
I know.
would be
I don't know.
Sweet, salty. No, sweet. No, it would be baby birds.
I don't think it matters. Then, like what is it? Peter Piper picked a peck of peckle.
Yeah, is that an alliteration?
That's an alliteration. Yeah, that's. An
We're going with that, folks.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Say that 3 times fast, right? As a kid.
Alliteration.
Yeah, you sound illiterate right now. I can't even.
You just did that. I have a mouthful.
I know you did. That's why I did it.
That was not nice.
I was waiting to strike.
Yeah, I know.
Like a cobra. My sense of humor.
Oh,
But yeah, it's we're on a roll. I love this. Third episode, feeling good. Horns are going. We were talking about coming back, which we've done successfully. I'm so happy about that. And reinventing yourself, what the difference is. We talked about pickleball, but what we touched on during that episode, which I couldn't stop thinking about since that recording many moons ago, was you said something quickly that it's not easy to make friends. Especially at your age. I'm not going to tell the audience how old you are exactly, but just trust me, she's old.
Oh God!
And with that,
Sorry.
with that aging person in front of me, I want to tell why it's hard to. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that she's stubborn, rarely leaves the house, and doesn't like to spend money.
Shut up. Shut up. Rarely leaves the house. He's so full of shit.
I am. You're getting out a lot now because you're a pickleball person. It's official. So why is it? But you said something which really resonated.
Rarely leave. I could kill you.
Because it resonated with me as a 45-year-old man, a guy, is that it's not easy to make friends, especially as you get older. So what was it about pickleball that made it easier?
Pickleball. This is a very social sport.
Okay, and that's our episode, folks. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
We're having a seminar on this. It'll be $1,700 a person.
It's about 3 minutes.
And let me tell you, you'll get more out of that. Tony Robbins, forget him.
Right.
Pickleball. That's your answer.
That's pretty good. I hope you liked it.
Yeah.
Don't let the door hit you in the ass.
That's it. So it was pickleball. But we talked a little bit about pickleball, but were you able to you must have been able to make a friend before that.
No. Oh, this is going. I don't know where this is going, but I got to. Okay. I actually have not had that trouble in my life making friends, but it does change in different stages of your life. No question about that. There is no question about that. At least speaking, I have to remind people that I'm always speaking for myself. I do not speak for other people. So a lot of people are going to relate to this, and some people are just not going to. I have been blessed in my life to have a best friend for probably close to 50 years. And that's awesome. Does everyone have that? No. Do a lot of people have it? Yeah. And maybe they've got more than one. Some people, their best friend is with a member of their family. And some people, they don't even relate to their family. So their friendships are all outside of family, outside influences. But yeah, you have friends for different reasons. I'm thinking about, let's start with when you're like a kid. When you're a kid, making friends goes back. All of these things, I love how they all tie together. Everything we talk about, the threads, just connect one story with another topic, joining. When you're a kid, we said, can I play with you? Can I play with you? And then you have a group of kids, and most likely somebody in that group is going to kind of think the same way you do, or want to do the same things you want to do. They also like the boardwalk. You have things in common. So things get, and you're not really as picky when you're a little kid too. Like, you just want to play. So anybody that's out there playing, right? Unless you're a bookworm, then you're looking for somebody that has kind of more of a loner type, looking for somebody you can talk to about books or about what you've read or that type of thing. So, being a kid, having friends, kids have a lot of friends. Oh, well, on Facebook, they have thousands of friends.
Yeah, hundreds
Isn't
and
that
thousands.
funny? Isn't that really weird? I'm sorry of all you people that have all kinds of Facebook friends.
I think when
it's the wrong word, people.
Yeah, it's relationships, links.
Yeah,
whatever you
links,
want to call it. Connections.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. I don't know. All these social medias platforms
it's
sort of different.
We're not talking about
but
Facebook
I'm with you.
friends.
Like the friends that they may or may not know your phone number. I don't think anyone knows anybody's phone number anymore. But they're the people you can call. When something really happens, and But I think it's. I think you're right. I think it happens at different times, and you make friends in different circumstances at different ages, and I think it's hard to keep friends for all those years, right? How do you keep a friend for 50 years? What do you you didn't always live down the street from each other. You didn't always, you weren't always on the same paths. Yeah. So how do you keep a friendship like that for so long?
Well, I guess I can speak from experience because, being older, which you've just rubbed, pretty big time in my face this morning.
Well, it's all over your face.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You share, you laugh at the same things. The stories never get old. You share so many memories. So when you get older, like they knew your parents. They knew all of this. Nothing is, and you take that with you, into your 50s and 60s and now into my 70s. And it's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful to have that because when you meet new friends, which you do, and if you get really lucky at my age, which I think I have been, to have met another really, really good friend. And I'm in the process of meeting really good friends. And we can talk about that in a minute, like friends for different reasons or, as to...
Friends for different occasions.
And then some of those friends become even closer. So instead of just being a friend that you go to book club with, that friend also becomes somebody now I've had over for dinner. Mm-hmm. That would be if I cooked. Yeah. That would be if I went in the kitchen. Maybe I should think about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe I should think about that. But yeah, so you've got that long-term friend. That's a wonderful thing to have. And then you have friends, which we just said, you were saying, for different occasions but it gets harder. It gets harder to make friends because of all kinds of different circumstances. People move. People get occupied with other things. At my age, a big thing people get occupied with is their grandchildren, or their families aren't in the same location anymore. And those families now have grandchildren. Yeah. And, I lived in New Jersey. You live in Maine. You live here. So people move. So that long-term, do you still remain friends? You do, but for it to be that friendship that you're still going to talk all the time, sometimes it just it doesn't. You're still friends. It's not a question of caring about the person, but the time spent talking to each other, or gets less and less.
Yeah, and sometimes it's being able to pick up right where you left off, which
That's
is a big
great.
thing.
Yeah.
I want to stop. It's 12 o'clock. Do you think she's going to want something? Do we want to?
She wants your
You
food.
just want the food, huh? Okay, I'll just pet her. That's a little dog interruption. I don't think we need to edit that out.
No, she's just looking at his pinwheel longingly.
It is longingly, yeah.
Longingly.
No, I think you're right, though. Things do change for people. And then having to pick up, that's to me, I mean, not to overcomplicate it, but my closest friendships are those friendships where if I haven't seen someone in a year or 5 years or 10 years, we just pick up right where we left off. And the reason we can do that, I think, is exactly as you said. For me as a guy, it's shared experiences, growing up in the same town, going
Knowing
to the same high school.
people.
Not just that, even if you don't know their parents that well, you know that their parent went to high school with your parent. That was. I don't know Josh Biondi's mom that well, but I've seen her yearbook picture. Because of you and Uncle Scott, and Josh isn't somebody I've seen for a year. But, there was a funny, talk about Facebook, there was a funny Facebook post about how Josh was coming back to Wildwood Crest and he was going to be in a running race with one of his old friends, a guy named Joe Zemicelli. And, it was a call to action. If you're in town, come watch this ridiculous race of these two 45-year-old men, in a sprint to see who's faster. And who was there? Me and, my other really good friend, Mike Zorfis. And yeah, we were cheering it on. Did a little Facebook Live. It was a lot of fun. But, we all picked up right where we left off. And truth be told, I didn't know Joe that well, but he's from the area. So you had that bond too, and that happened pretty quickly. And then, the other friendships I have, through college, there's that group. But a lot of it, kind of getting to the premise of this show, a lot of it is shared experience. What experience did you share with them that you've been able to carry forward? So, when you, for example, get to college for the first time, those first few weeks, those first people you met at college, I've met a lot of people who those are their closest friends. I just spent a week with my closest friend from college. He was only at the University of Vermont for 1 year. His name's Brant. He's from Boulder, Colorado. But I see him every time I go to Colorado. He comes and sees me. I go and see him. I see his kids. I know his wife, Caitlin. But we didn't have a lot of time together, but it was a very meaningful time because we were both scared. We were both going through a lot.
Yeah.
You're transitioning, but we have that shared experience. And even my professional friends that have come out of a professional environment were from times in my career that were the most difficult, the most unstable, the most challenging. I joke around a lot. I worked at Goldman Sachs for a heartbeat, but it happened to be during the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, which was a wildly turbulent time. But the people I'm closest with in the industry and that I still remain friends with were that core group of people from that time. I speak to them all the time. And, I feel lucky. It wasn't easy at the time then, but now we can look back on that and realize that we all did that together.
Yeah, that was the foundation of that friendship.
We supported each other during that time. We had each other's backs, all of those things because we were all in it together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it. And then as you get older, keeping those friends, that's the hard part. It's hard. It's hard to stop whatever you're doing and say, I'm going to give Seth a call or I'm going to give Doug a call.
Life happens. Life gets in the way.
Text makes it easier.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. I usually drop a text and say, if you're still, better looking than me, that kind of stuff. And, just to stay connected. But it's a lot of hard. It's a lot of hard. There is a lot of hard in there. There's a lot of hard. There's a lot of hard in friendship, and it's not always perfect too. Sometimes, you can lose a friend, but, I think a lot of times those old friendships do come back.
Yeah, I think so as well. And some of them just never go away. So what's that song? How can I miss you if you won't go away?
Yeah.
I think that some of the friends that you were talking about, like just sort of childhood friends, there's something about your childhood that you will just always share, no matter how old you get. You know, you go to a 50-year class reunion. Of course, I have to say there weren't too many people that showed up, but the people that do, you're just like, you know, you see each other a little bit is just like little kids. I mean, you spend a long time with them, you know, pre-first through 8th grade, and then 4 years in high school. That's a long time. That's like 12 years of your life with this sort of little insulated and isolated group that you may not have been close to, but you can name everybody, you know, in that group. And now, do you carry any of some people do, absolutely, have these childhood friends for life. I can't think of anybody, although I consider them, when I see them, it's so good to see them. Or when I comment on Facebook, or I just feel like I have stories with them. But have we seen each other in 50 years? No. And that's like really amazing.
Yeah, I think it's also amazing too. If you ever talk to a friend about those stories, ask them to retell the story that you think you know so well.
Right.
I just did that. I asked, again, I was with Brant, so one of my oldest friends from college. We were out in Colorado. He came out to visit with his sons, and we were talking about the first time I went to Colorado. I tell this story a lot, that, you know, first time I visited Colorado was because I met these kids from Boulder, and, you know, I was invited out, so I fly out there, and my memories of it are fuzzy, you know, and not just because of parties and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, I remember I scratched my eye, so I had to go to urgent care in the middle of the night. Or, you know, we went to Boulder Creek and we tubed down the river, and we went to a fun restaurant. You know, it was a hot dog stand called Colonel Mustard's Last Stand. I remember these things. I asked Brant, what did he remember about it? And he starts laughing. And he goes, I remember I was so embarrassed. The first night you were going to stay over, and we were going to get in late because we were going to see a concert. And when we got home, there was a note in the door for me, not for Brant, but for me, that if I had trouble finding my room, just to follow the yarn. So I was like, and I didn't remember it, but Brant had reminded me that his mom had tied one piece of yarn from the door, the front door, all the way up to the back of the house to the room that I'd be sleeping in. And that if I got lost at any point during the night or had trouble when I got home finding the room, I could follow the yarn. And I started remembering this yarn, and I wasn't embarrassed by it. He was mortified, you know, that his mom had left this yarn, and he thought it was hilarious, and it was funny. But it's, you know, I didn't remember that, but that was a shared experience for him, right? I came back, you know, even though he was probably embarrassed, as a friend, I came back the next day, you know, or the next week or the next month. And I think that's also part of it too. You know, there are times when you're young, you feel like, oh my God, you're mortified, or you can't believe you went through that. Who would ever like me after that? But then these people come back, and you're like, oh, you know, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. They stick it out with you. And sticking it out doesn't mean like, you go to jail or do time and your friends are still there. It's just like little things,
Right.
Those little paper cuts you feel that you think are so big, but, you know, to somebody else, they're like, again, shared experience. I've been through something like that. I get that. I understand it. And you start to forge, you know, those bonds.
Yeah, and I mean, let's get real. You can't possibly, you're talking about making friends and keeping friends. I think there's like there are people called acquaintances. There are people called, you know, it's friendly. It's friendly, you know, but it's not something that you would put, you know, in that basket of close friends.
Mm-hmm.
You can't possibly, as a person, have time in your life for 100 really close friends. You'd spend your whole life texting people, or you wouldn't be able to hit all the dinner parties. I mean, it just doesn't happen because we're very different people, unique people, and meet people through things that you do, getting out there, which I started talking about playing. You meet kids because you're playing, you're going to school, you're going to events. You're forced to be around people. You might, as a kid, not particularly care for people, but you're going to be there with them. You're going to be at this and that and soccer and thrown into whatever you're thrown into now. And there are all these people, and somebody's going to fall from the crowd as, wow, I like her. Margot, at 6 years old, she has little friends now, little girlfriends, little friends. How cute. How cute that they're now starting to. A 3-year-old pretty much doesn't talk about their friends, because they're not involved that much.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about their parents.
They talk about their parents. They talk about maybe their cat. They talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Relatives usually that they're around. So how easy it is to make friends, and then you go on to college. You meet college friends. I have to, once again, I don't have friends that I have kept, would mostly be from work and school, a little bit from school. And just for different reasons. Some people, not only do they make a friend when they're young, they marry them.
Yeah.
My brother, those high school or grade school friendships that turn into romances, that turn into marriages. That's an interesting thing. How wonderful that must be to be with your best friend that turns into a romance.
Yeah.
I think that must be special.
Yeah, I think so too. So it happens at all ages for all different reasons. So it's been something I've been thinking about a lot. I think as I get, I'm in my mid 40s, and I've really tried to make an effort to either reconnect with old friends or just really, just touch base a lot with people as best I can. And, that's the other thing too. You also, for better or worse, those friends, may not be as receptive. Some of them, not all of them. But the kind of the person you're thinking about a lot, and you ping them or you call them, and it may not get received. So I think also too, just recognizing that person is also maybe at a different stage in their life.
Sure.
So don't take it personally, just kind of move through, and also kind of finding new things as we get older. I can't, I was joking around that this is a running race. But I'm not running anymore, so you have to find new things to do with your friends as you get older, because we're not doing what we did before. I'm not meeting people up. I'm not meeting up with people for pickup basketball. I'm meeting up with kids and friends and pools and the beach and, wherever you can, just to kind of stay social and active.
There was it made me think of a documentary that I thought was really, really well done. Whether you're a fan or not of this comedian, Joan Rivers. Anyway, she did a documentary. I'm not sure what it's called. I saw it quite a long time ago. But she was in the back of a limousine, and she was talking about her. I don't know if he was her manager or what he was forever.
Yeah, her manager.
Was it her manager? Oh, you saw it? Mm-hmm. Isn't it good?
Yeah.
And she had to let him go. I don't know if he had some kind of substance problem or what the deal was, but it was, time after time after time after time, which was really hard for her because they shared so much. Her whole career, she'd been with him forever.
Well, one thing in particular that they shared that she brings up was memories of her deceased husband.
Yeah.
And that was the big tie.
Yeah.
It was those stories that only he would have seen of her,
right,
of her husband.
And she was saying that a lot of her friends had passed on. So she said it was a really sad thing when you think about elderly that have had these friends and all these, that there's no one left that knows. That was the hardest thing for her about not only getting older, but having to make that decision because there's nobody left that knows your stories, that you can share these, that you can laugh about something when something comes up and reminds you of that story, you have to be careful about that, though. You don't want to live in your nothing but your past stories. Even with your friends, you want to make new stories.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right, though. There's something about also that generation leaving. I think I don't know. I was just thinking recently, my great aunt passed away just a few weeks ago, and that's I think she was 95 when she passed, so that's kind of the last of that generation. So she was probably her last friend.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure people knew her, but her great friendships, maybe they had been long gone, and
Yeah, and you don't know. Let me tell you something. You do not know what that's like until it starts to happen.
yeah.
You really don't. And it's those friends that it hits you. It's like, somebody just passed away again from my high school class, and we go back to pre-first. Pre-first. So it's like, wow. I mean, you really think about it. Did we hang out? Were we together in the last 50 years? No. No. But do we know a lot about each other? Yeah.
No, I think that down here especially, I think that all the time is I'm often asked, "Oh, how long have you known that person?" And usually, especially down here, the answer is, I don't know a time when I didn't know them. So I guess it's forever, at least in my mind, 3, 4,
Interesting. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Preschool, nursery school, maybe even before that. So when I think of, people like Jim and John McQuillan, or, Daryl Groon, or, Greg Lasavita, Joe Franco, these friends of mine that have just been around forever. I don't know a time I didn't know them. Like, in fact, I have to be reminded of how long I knew them when I look at an old picture, from a birthday party at McDonald's or wherever, you took me. It's whatever luxury birthday trip you took me to. So, yeah, no. But yeah, it's so interesting. I think those timeless relationships. Anyway, I was thinking a lot about Annabelle. She was my great aunt. She was my father's aunt. She was born on Valentine's Day, 1928.
Wow. So was Eddie Dean.
Oh yeah, another old friend.
Yeah. Eddie Valentine Dean actually was his name.
Yeah, she ended up being a grandmother of 8 and a great grandmother of 7. I hadn't seen her in a long time. I wrote her a letter when Margot was born. And in the letter, I told her this story of how Margot got her name. And Sarah and I, before Margot was born, had agreed that if Margot looked like Sarah when she came out, or was more familiar to Sarah, we would call her Margot. That was a name that Sarah had always loved, and I loved the name too, so I thought that was wonderful. But she wasn't married to it, so I had suggested a family name, and I had suggested Annabelle, because that was, Dad's aunt and, my grandfather's sister. And she also loved that. So we had agreed. And as you know, that Annabelle is known as Aunt Bunny. So that's what Dad calls her, and his sisters, and I called her as well, Aunt Bunny. So anyway, so Margot comes out of the womb. We show her, and she is, oh my goodness, she looked like Sarah crying. She looked like Sarah as she cries. And we'd laugh about that. And so we knew right away it was going to be Margot. But because we really loved Annabelle, we call her Bunny. So that's Margot's nickname as a result of my Aunt Bunny. So anyway, I wanted to share that story.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice. So anyway, yeah, but friendships are really wonderful things. I think, for different reasons with different people, different everything. Male friendships, female friendships, friendships with your kids, friendships with your family. You can learn a lot from them. And I think the advice I always give people is just, stoke them, stoke the fire, poke it every now and again.
I guess it's sort of, if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend.
Exactly what I said. It's a two-way street.
So why do you think that people's friends can sometimes be so different from people's significant others?
Well, I think sometimes,
opposites attract?
Opposites can attract. Those friends, even though they're good friends, it doesn't mean you want to live with them. There could be, you don't know.
But we do.
Oh, we do. But I don't know. Maybe that's a good lesson, actually. Maybe if we looked for, more friendship attributes to start, maybe that's part of what all these online dating services are about. Looking for the commonalities, the real things that sustain relationships, not just the superficial. But I don't know. Why do you think?
I don't know, honestly.
Well, and that's a wrap, folks. Thanks so much for joining us for the 3rd episode.
I don't know, but I do think it's fairly common I do think it's fairly common. I mean, you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's, he or she is my best friend," but a lot of times, yeah. I mean, the people have found that friend where they have so much in common and like to do the same things. And not to say that other relationships don't work when people have nothing in common, but yeah, I don't really know. But I think if you look at if I look at a lot of my close friends, they have a lot of very similar qualities.
Yeah.
They're very, and the biggest quality, the biggest component is probably they're all very funny. They're all very funny.
That's interesting just for our audience. If you're listening to this episode and, thinking about your own friends, what is it about your friends? We're going to do a couple more reach outs and shout outs this season, but what is it about your friends? What are those threads? What are those commonalities that you see? I would agree. Sense of humor. I have a lot of resilient friends. Resilience is a big thing, in my circle. I always kind of joke around, I have a lot of people I could call when things fall apart. And then the last thing I have too, which is not quite a friendship, but I think is going to be a future episode for us, is community. What does a community mean of people?
Yeah.
You can have community of friends, you can have community of parishioners, you can have communities of lots of things. But I think a community is a really interesting thing. And
Absolutely.
that's something I think is really missing these days is a community. How do you build that? So, well, we've got lots to talk about in the coming episodes. Friends, communities.
Yeah. Speaking the same language. I mean, I don't. To me, it's so clear that there are certain people when they speak, exactly what they're, where they're going, what they're saying, where they're probably what they're going to say next.
Oh, totally.
It. And then other people are talking. It's like Greek, and you find yourself saying, "I'm sorry, could you say that again?" I didn't get that.
Yeah, two different languages.
Two different languages.
Yeah.
How we could all speak. So if somebody's speaking a different language where it's hard, it's a little more of a struggle.
Yeah.
It's just more of a struggle.
Yeah, I struggle with you every day.
I figured you did.
You might as well be speaking Chinese.
You struggle, huh?
I do struggle.
I'm going to struggle you.
Well, I'm going to struggle you. Yeah, strangle and struggle. Both in the same. Anyway, well, we're very happy to be back. As you know and may remember, you can find this episode and past episodes on our website at 12poundpodcast.com. We are going to be back next week with another episode for you to listen to. We are so excited to be sharing these with all of our friends and our listeners. So thanks for tuning in. Mom, thanks as always.
You're welcome, Robert.
We're on it.
Yes.
I'm feeling I got a Wawa pinwheel.
Good times.
Great stories.
Yep.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.